63% of Gen Z, ages 18 to 28 years old as of 2025, say they want to leave America. Not just for vacation, not just on holiday, but for good, like forever, permanently. And we actually did, and we're millennials, young millennials, but we left America in 2020 and did not return. And the version of life that we live here is so beautiful. You're not being dramatic. You're not being lazy. You are waking up. That's the reality of the situation. Don't let anybody gaslight you. Don't let anybody make you think that this isn't something that's happening. The West is crumbling on itself, and you're awake. You can feel it. You can hear it. Your spirit sees it. Just because some parts of the population can't see it yet doesn't mean it's not reality. My name is Tiffy. I'm married. I'm a married mom of lots of children, 5 children to be exact. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a wife, all the things. And my husband and I, we left America in 2020, and now we call Mauritius home. We lived in East Africa for a couple of years. And the truth is, we didn't leave America because we hated it, but because we couldn't see ourselves building a future there anymore, And if you're Gen Z, if you're a millennial, even if you're a boomer, you're not crazy for feeling the same way. I want you to understand that. When we lived in the States, we checked all of the boxes, go to school. Actually, we graduated from one of the best school in Ohio. And then one of the best schools in the entire nation, our high school, okay? And so, we checked all the boxes, get your degrees, go to school, get your jobs, work multiple jobs if you have to, do your side hustles. But every month it was like the math is not mathing. Rent was half of our income. Groceries, ridiculous. And, this was back in 2019, 2020. And so it's even more so debilitating now for Americans that are currently living in America. Now, we started asking, what if we didn't have to struggle this much? What if the American dream works only if you're born into it or willing to be critically, excruciatingly exhausted by it? One day in December 2019, to be exact, after planning for multiple years, passively planning to leave America since 2015. When I say passively, having conversations like, yeah, eventually one day we'd love to go to Africa. We'd love to travel and live overseas, That wasn't something that was so out of touch for us. Both of us have family members and have grown up in families where there are people who lived overseas and travel overseas. And so for us, it didn't seem that far away, but we looked at each other and, we were like, why don't we just leave December 2019? That's when we started the quick action step planning process of why should we stay here for another year, another 5 years, another 10 years, another 20, 30 years, when we can see the incremental decline as the days go by, almost at this rate, second by second, minute by minute. So we researched countries and, we were like, we're not gonna wait for 10 years until we save $100,000, until we do all of these things. We are young. We have our energy, we have our wit, we have our skill sets, we have our talents. We had already opened up an online business for that specific reason. Remember, I told you in 2015, we already knew at very young ages, 18 and 19 years old, that we did not want to stay in America. This was back in 2015. And so we were passively planning, passively like, hey, we know that we can't depend on an African economy to give us a job. So we need to start our online business while we're here and travel abroad and run our business while we're abroad, which is what we do today, okay? By the way, if you're watching this and you have been wondering how to start your own online consulting business as a marketing strategist, a marketing consultant, a law firm consultant, a tax relief firm, an accountant, even a wellness provider, a functional medicine provider that serves clients online, Black Educators Amplified, unfortunately, is currently closed, but you can apply for a one-to-one slot because the accelerator has just closed registration. So unless you are able to get in and get your flex pay, whatever situation you wanted to work out to join the program, it is now closed. But watch the Black Educators Amplified playlist so that you can hear when it opens up again, okay? But now that we live in Mauritius and have traveled East Africa, been to Kenya, lived in Tanzania, been to Zambia, okay, flown Kenyan Airways, I think we took Turkish Airways over here from America. We were supposed to fly Qatar, but now that we're living this international life, our cost of living is 60% lower. Our stress levels are way down. We work 20 hours a week for our corporate clients and a few of the mentors, the mentorship clients that we have. And our children get to live a life of freedom. Like, this island is literally Paradise Island, and it's one of the easiest countries in Africa, if not one of the easiest in the entire world, to immigrate and move to. Mauritius, Africa. It has free digital nomad visas, retirement programs for those who have a pension of over $1,500, excellent self-employed entrepreneur visas that last 10 years instead of 1 or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, where you only need to invest $35,000 into your own offshore bank account to start your self-employment consultancy fast track to the island life, to a life of abundant success and wellness. And I'm so glad we made this decision, because at the end of the day, Gen Z is not crazy and lazy. They're not. And again, this statistic comes from the Stock Titan. 63% of Generation Z wants to leave, ages 18 to 28. 45% say the cost of living is the main reason, okay? 72%, 72%, over 2/3, more than 2/3, say that they want a slower pace of life. And it's like, humanity is meant to live a slow pace of life. We weren't meant to be hustle bustle, do this, do that, go here, go there, stress yourself out, have high blood pressure, be on mental health medication, and then have these issues. We were never supposed to live like this as humans. I believe that with all of my heart, all of my soul, all of my mind. And it's to the point, dealing with the United States and the United Kingdom, that it's just crippling. There's something else I should let you know. The UK is warning their citizens and saying that they need to stockpile before summer because their economy may crash. We're seeing these articles and these news outlets from Walmart and Target warning President Donald Trump that their shelves are going to be empty. Not half empty, not a fourth empty, not 3/4 empty. They're warning President Donald Trump, Walmart and Target, look it up. They are warning President Donald Trump that their shelves are going to be empty in a couple of weeks and in a couple of months. It could be due to the trade wars, it could be due to the cost of inflation, or maybe this is just a mix of the perfect ingredients to bring about the storm that's coming in the West. And it's gonna hit Great Britain, the UK, and it's gonna hit the US the hardest. Absolutely. There are even places in Eastern Europe and like Southern Europe, the Mediterranean type areas, that have a slower pace of life, that have a lower cost of living, that will somewhat be able to weather this storm. Something else that really bothers me and woke me up when I moved to Africa. First, the reason that I wanted to move to Africa so intensely, and the reason I was called by the Most High Yah to do it, is because I understood that the economy, the society, the culture, and the overall spiritual system of Babylon, the West, the UK, and the US is declining. I knew it was on a fast track to decimation. I saw that early on, and I was like, we have to get out of here. My husband saw it as well. And we agreed. We were like, we don't want to raise children in this society. Look at the Department of Education. Look at the literacy rates in some of these school systems. It's not enough to just say, well, everybody's schooling is like that. Well, everybody's struggling. We're the type of people, we take radical accountability for our family. We want our children to be the best that they can possibly be in what they're called to do, which means having the highest literacy outcomes as possible, having the highest quality of life possible. And when I say quality of life, I'm talking about as a human, like slow paced living, playtime, homeschool, traveling, speaking multiple languages. When I think about their quality of life, being healthy, exercising, being able to run out in the jungle yard that exists outside, just right out of our doors, and go and run off into the mountainous area. Because when we go outside and I walk with my children, they run towards the mountains and act like they're running and there's no tomorrow. I think that's what childhood is supposed to be like. I think that's what it should be like. But in the US and the UK, things are falling quickly, and children can't be children. Children are abused in America and the UK, obviously all across the world, but more so in crazy numbers in the US and UK. And like I said, the UK has been warning their citizens, saying, prepare. Target and Walmart warning Donald Trump, hey, we're not going to have any supplies. Stocks are shaky, stocks are crazy. But it's a good time to invest in gold, to be quite honest. I'll leave our broker down below. But everything has changed. I think the American dream, the US, the UK dream, that people from all across the world wanted to experience, it doesn't exist anymore, and maybe it never did. Like, what if it just never did? What if it was all just a lie? Like, there was no American dream. When we look at the history of that country, when we look at the history of the peoples that have been murdered and slaughtered and hurt and abused, the natives, our ancestors who were taken there in slavery, there was never going to be a happy ending for that place. And there never will be. And I'm okay with that. I've found peace with that. Another thing that's quite disturbing, like I said, that I learned after being in Africa for so long, I had this automatic displeasure and distaste for the US culture and society as a whole. That's what drove me to Africa. Also knowing that I had the great stability and mindset to make it abroad, because I have family members who have done the same and gone before me. But something else is the level of violence. I learned living in East Africa, now living in Mauritius, and being around both African people and Asian people for years now, because there's a lot of Indian people and Asian people on the Swahili coast as well, all throughout Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Mozambique, all across the area, okay? And I started to realize this is worse than what I thought it was. Like American society, I knew it was pretty bad, but once I saw how humans outside of the West treated each other, treated me as a foreigner in their land, treated my husband, our family, our children, then I deeply realized, oh my gosh, the way that we are living in America, the way that we used to live, it's dysfunctional. It's the exact opposite of how we should be living as humans, as a society. Everybody's individualistic, everybody's in it for themselves. Not only that, but I've noticed that most Westerners, especially from the UK and the US, are very aggressive. Even if they, were born in the Caribbean and moved to Canada or moved to the UK, Westerners are extremely aggressive, extremely traumatized, I guess. And they have that saying that people who are hurt people, or people who have been hurt people. And it's so true, because living in Mauritius, Africa, living in East Africa, traveling Southeastern Africa, people are so chill and relaxed, and they're just not as tense and angry. My husband was speaking to somebody in the store yesterday in line, a fellow traveler who has moved to this country. And he's from a country in Europe, and he was talking about how, back in his country in France, people are not this calm. Like, if there's a long line, because there's been super long lines, there's so many expats coming here, but there have been super long lines. And so he's like, back in my country, people would fight if these lines were this long. And it's like, what happens? What is this thing with Western society, this matrix, this bubble, these ingredients that cause this chaos, where regular everyday people are so cruel and evil and twisted and mean? The 4% of the population, the 11% of the Earth's population. But then you go to continents like Africa or Asia, and you experience true humanity, what life is literally supposed to be like. An ease of living, an ease of doing business, an ease where you get to slowly cook. Sometimes I braid my hair, and I had to slow down because the women in Africa that braid my hair, they braid it slowly. They braid it slowly because they don't have to go clock in. They don't have to go and do all these extra things. They take their time and relax. Both women from Tanzania and Nigeria who have done my hair take their time, they relax. And so I had to just pause my nervous system and say, I live on an island paradise. Why do I need to rush? I don't need to rush. But it's been so ingrained in me from a child that I automatically feel like I have to hurry, rush, do this, do this, do this. And it's like, you don't have to do that. You can just pause, you can stop, everything's okay. You don't need to move super quickly because you no longer live in that society. And so if this video resonates with you, if you have been searching on Google, you're like, what country is best for Americans to move to? What country is visa free for Americans? What country has a low cost of living? Where can I go that has peace, stability, and safety? What kind of country should I move to if I'm 28, if I'm 38, if I'm 58? Whatever you're researching, whatever your goals are, know that you're not insane. Know that you're not crazy. Know that this is real. An awakening is happening, not only in America and in the West, but across the world. People are waking up and seeing the old colonial ties, the old colonial control, and the ways of the past will not sustain the future. And it will cause the decimation of an entire Northwestern society. Shalom, shalom. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe if you found value. And let me know your biggest takeaway down below. Did you know that many people in Gen Z were trying to leave the States? Or are you a boomer and you're like, look, I'm one of the few people in my age group that wants to leave? Or maybe you're in circles of like married couples and people that have been thinking, hey, we want to leave the US. It takes sacrifice, it takes diligence, it takes dedication, and most of all, grace and faith. But when you make that move, it's the best decision you can make for your entire trajectory to the 10th generation. Shalom, shalom.